All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning back in to this episode of From the Mechanics Bench. My guest today is someone I'm really looking forward to talking with. Doesn't really need an introduction, Mr. Geoff Gulevich. Thank you for being here.
Thank
And
you so much. I'm stoked to be here.
yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. You've been a really influential writer in my life and whatnot. So I'm really stoked to have some chats. So, I mean, I don't think people really need to get an introduction into your career, but why don't you give me a little synopsis quickly of kind of what got you into riding? You've been around for a long time. How did it all start for you? What was the kind of kickoff point?
Well, frankly, one thing that has never changed is I've always been the annoying little brother that wanted to hang out with the big kids, and it was actually my brother's buddies that introduced me to the North Shore Extreme series. I think it was the second one when I was about 12 years old, and immediately I wanted to do that. I was big into baseball and soccer, and I just team sports didn't click for me. So I got a paper route, saved up, got my first Norco Kathmandu at 12 years old. And I think I tacoed both the wheels in the first week of having it.
Not
And
surprising.
yeah, it was a true crash course into mountain biking.
Do you remember the first trail that you like went on? Were you like right away into the woods, or were you just like cruising the neighborhood to start?
Oh man, we at my friend what was his name? Jesse Smith. His dad, Rob Smith, was a big biker as well. And Jesse was a couple years younger, and they always had ramps and skinny set up in their front yard. And I would go ride there. And his older sister was actually in my classes. So it was
Oh,
pretty
no
funny me
way.
hanging out with the little brother. Yeah, yeah. And I think one day finally, after a couple months of riding skinnies and getting good at that sort of thing, he took us up to ladies only.
That's
And
a good
it
first ride.
was, dude, it was terrifying. I
Oh, I
was
can't even
like,
imagine.
yeah, I was like, ladies only. That's a sounds like a mellow name, and it wasn't. It
No
was super
kidding.
hard.
Well, especially back then too, because it's like people that are riding it now are current with ladies only. Like it's had a lot of work done to it. It's wide. It's got like options, for stuff, right?
Yeah,
So, because this would have been what, like
totally.
what year? Would have been like nine.
2000?
Yeah, I was gonna say late '90s, early 2000s. So, oh, I think I lost you on audio for a second there. Hold on. Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Um,
There we go.
well, yeah. So you got started there, and right away you obviously like found your calling in riding. You're obviously relatively talented at it pretty quickly. A lot of kids start riding at that age, and then not a lot of kids end up in North Shore Extreme or kind of doing that thing. Like, what was the kind of bridge, or what got you from like those first days riding skinnies kind of into that world? And did you feel like there was an option to have a career in mountain biking like early on, or were you just kind of riding for fun and then that stuff just happened?
Um, it was pretty funny. Like I was not good. I was horrible. I crashed more than anybody, but I just picked myself up and try again and again and again. And as soon as I rode ladies only and I knew how bad I actually was, I was just like, I want to do this. This is what I want. I'm going to dedicate my life to this. And it was overnight. I just completely committed to it. And I think Digger first saw me at, I want to say, a flow show setup in Edgemont Village in 2000 or 2001.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he asked if I wanted to go do some filming. And I think it was for North Shore Extreme 6 was my debut.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
So
feel like I was going back thinking about when I first like started seeing you in videos or whatever, and I was like, I think it was North Shore Extreme, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And then obviously the collective was a big one, for
yeah,
you. Going back and watching those now, it's so crazy to just see how young everybody looks. But
yeah.
do you like when you started filming with Digger, was it the classic Digger story? Did he have a stunt built for you out in the woods? You never even
Oh
seen
yeah.
it before, and it was like show up and go.
Yeah, On Top Bike Shop had they put me on the R&D program for Ellsworth.
Oh,
So I had
cool.
an Ellsworth Joker And that's when I started shooting with Digger. And I ended up breaking, I think, 3 or 4 of the Ellsworth Jokers in the first year. And Digger was just taking me out to random features he had in the woods.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious, man. Like, holy, I think Banshee noticed me as soon as I started shooting with North Shore Extreme, and they gave me
Yeah.
an Ellsworth, or not Ellsworth, a Banshee Scream, and the bike was
Okay. Yeah.
58 pounds, and I was a buck 20, soaking wet.
No kidding. That bike's riding
So I
you
was
around.
oh yeah, I was just a passenger, and I'm hitting these features that Digger had, and then I'd roll out a frame, and he'd be like, "Geoff, stop!" And he'd go and push my bike up for me again because I was too small to push it up.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Oh, and like Digger would have like a Fresca in one hand, a cigarette in the other, his little tripod. He'd be like, "Stop biking," and he like put him down and run down, grab my bike and push it up, and then
That's probably what
reset
blew
for
his
another.
knees out, man, was getting that anchor up to film again. That's
Oh
so
my
funny.
god,
Yeah, it's
it
crazy to
was
see.
all
That brings
good.
us like to a really interesting point. Like you've obviously been around the shore basically since it's been the shore, right? Like since it's kind of, like been what it is now, iconic around the world for mountain biking. You've lived there your whole life. Have you noticed a big change in like the mountain biking scene? Have you noticed things that you think are fantastic for the scene? Are there things that you wish kind of were, similar to how they used to be? Like, what's your kind of just take on the scene in North Van as a whole?
I feel like it's completely changed. I feel like the evolution has gone from slow, skinnies, ladder bridges, features just randomly placed in the woods, and like the odd trail that was completely built with features like jerry rig that
Yeah,
Jerry Willows built. And now it's gone to more of high speed flow, jumps, and maintaining speed in the woods. And that
totally.
never used to be the case. So I really like that. I feel like it has a bigger appeal, and it's really shaped a lot of the World Cup racers and enduro racers we have now.
Yeah,
And it's incredible. Like Canada never really had a place in the downhill scene until the past 15 years. And that's
totally.
solely due to the evolution of the shore. And of course, I'd love to see like a couple cool built wood features here and
Yeah,
there, but it's just segued away from that. And I feel it's for the greater good. I feel like the trails are more sustainably made and maintained.
yeah.
And whereas before you'd go up to something that took 60 hours to build, and it's just this, for a lack of a better word, ugly feature
Yeah,
that has no place being where it should be.
yeah.
And trees were getting cut down to make these things. And as much as people want to say that they just used scrap wood they found around and laying in
It
the
doesn't
forest,
happen.
it's
Yeah,
things were cut down. We
yeah,
know the truth.
yeah, totally. And it's like, so do you, because the other truth I think about that stuff is that like, just like with skiing, if you really wanted to build something unique, there's still more than enough like land. And I'm not telling anyone to go out and build it, on their own. But you look at the Dylan Sheffers of the world, you look at, Matt McDuff, you look at like if you want to build something that's not out there and being put together by your like local trail association, whatever, like there is still opportunity to do that. So it's pretty hard to hear people like bitch and moan about like having, not having what they want if they've never picked up a shovel or they've, never gone to do anything.
Yeah,
But it is interesting because I was on the shore from 2007 till 2019, and I feel like even in that window, I saw it change a lot from getting there and having like Flying Circus be the trail that you wanted to like stick, and it was at the end of its life, at that point. To then, yeah, now you see the Boogie Nights, you see like those types of things that are, yeah, completely different flavor there.
totally.
But you're right. It has been cool to watch the freeride scene and the racing scene grow and have a Canadian influence, all over the place. Do you still, obviously, you just got back from freeride Fiesta, which was
Yeah.
looked pretty cool. How is that again? You can coming off an injury, like speaking of flow and big jumps and whatnot. Obviously, it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than those types of events. Yeah, what was that like getting back on the horse and kind of getting up in the air again?
That was wild. Like I'm sure most people know. Like I was in an avalanche skiing
Yeah,
last year, March 2nd, and uh, just deleted my femur into 17 pieces, and so I hadn't really hit too many big things. I really just found my balls again in October,
Yeah.
and was feeling the stability of my leg, the strength coming back, and the confidence growing. And then just this winter, it with the El Nino temperatures, we've been riding a ton, feeling really good out there. And Free Fiesta was massive. It was
Yeah.
like 55, 60-foot jumps, and the case pads were only maybe 2 feet long. So if you come up short on these things, like there's no grace area. You're getting
Yeah.
chucked. I think 9 bikes broke. I think 5 people had surgery in Mexico.
Wild.
It was rowdy, and just watching respectable riders go down so hard, I was like, yeah, this might be a vacation. I might be
Yeah.
chilling.
May not be
And
doing
then
much.
totally. And the opening drop there, the warm up, was like 28 feet down, 35 out, and you're rolling up to this. You're like, okay.
Yeah, it's real.
I was like, where do the boys warm up? And Johnny Solito, who helped build the track, this
Yeah.
is his event. He's just like, oh, this is it. And I was like, cool, man. It's like, you want to follow me off? I'm like, yeah, it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah, I guess, right?
And yeah, like the biggest thing I've probably hit since my injury was 12 feet, and
Wild.
going to more than double that immediately. I was like, okay, we're in it. Let's find those huevos and vamos, amigos.
But it looked like it came back pretty easy. Like all the footage I saw from you there, it looked pretty comfy. You looked like, things were good and solid, which is
Yeah,
nice. So
yeah. In all honesty, like I just sessioned the bottom drop and the the jump at the bottom for the first couple days, and then
yeah.
by the last couple days, when there was less crashing going on, I just kind of found my groove and followed a couple guys in and got the upper part of the track, and I was feeling really good. So
That's so sick.
yeah, man, it felt really good to get my wings back. Like, just,
Yeah, no kidding, dude.
oh, these jumps are massive. And
What has been like your injury story through your career? Like obviously this was a big one to come back from. Have you had a few others that you've really had to bounce back from? Like what's that mental battle been like, and how do you go about getting back on it?
Yeah, well, it's different for everybody. And throughout my career, I think I've done I did my radius and ulna in my left wrist. I've done my patella. I've done my tibia, talus, severe sprains in my right ankle. I have a roommate that sticks out in my shoulder here, a 4th-degree separation. Concussions, couple ribs, fingers, and then my femur.
Yeah, so the list is long.
The list goes on, and yeah, it's fruitful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. Like, not everybody really bounces back. You see people fall out of the game every year due to injuries.
Totally.
And it takes a certain mindset to come back from these things, knowing they could full well happen again. And just being able to find your rhythm, your confidence, your strength, and get your body back to a healthy place where you like it. So it's a lot of work, and you really need to commit to it. And I feel that over the past 10 months through this recovery, I've just made it my job to get healthy and get back on the bike. And there was no stopping me. Like I was coming back from this. It went from potentially losing my leg or even dying out in that slide that happened, to days later in the hospital being like, how long is it going to take to get back to it? Like, and you have to be that stubborn to come back from things like this, because like I said, it could full well happen as soon as you get back on the bike.
Yeah. And I feel like it's really interesting. You often see that with athletes that do come back, that shift from being like, not like the victim, but like being injured to like, okay, what now needs to happen to start recovering? And it's like, it's days in, like, I can't move my leg yet. I can't walk, I can't whatever yet, but you're already in that place of like, okay, I'm already looking forward, what are the next steps? And like, we already know that the goal is to be back on the bike and back riding and doing that, which is, I think, pretty rare, for a lot of people. A lot of people get hurt, and the first thing they're thinking is like, okay, how do I avoid that, again in the future? And it's just not a thing that kind of settles in with a lot of riders, which is also a really interesting segue then to me into kind of your Rampage experience, because Well, especially your involvement in Rampage was crazy for me because I was just kind of getting established on the shore at Bicycle Hub at my shop there. I remember building a couple rigs for you to go. I remember then watching the footage being like, hope I tightened everything, like just being like just nervous, right? Because it was like, I'd put together bikes for racers and whatever, but this was just a different thing. And I can't even imagine what it would have been like, being there competing. You've now gone from a competitor, you've been a judge, you've worked in the media booth. Like, it's obviously a huge event, in line with those Freeride Fiesta things in terms of like scope and scale, probably biggest one out there. Like, what has it meant to you? What have been the biggest challenges in like the way that it's affected and shaped in your career over the last couple of years? And like, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to our sport, moving forward? Is it a good thing? Is it too dangerous? Is it only going to get more dangerous? Should it be more dangerous? Like, what do you think on that, having been on every side?
I think one thing that a lot of the general public doesn't really understand is just the natural progression, and everything we're doing is something within reach that we can do. And when people are watching lines being built or moves that people are scoping out they want to build, you might think this dude's nuts. But if someone is thinking they can do it, they're not going to build it not thinking they can't land it.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that like everything that we're doing is relative to our mindsets and skill levels. And yes, accidents happen here and there, but these guys are professionals. Their vision is ingrained in their riding style and their dreams. Like everybody wants to win, and you have to out crazy the next guy if you want to be on top of the steps. And so you need to respect and accept the fact that these guys are willing to put it on the line to be on top of the steps because they are capable of doing it.
Yeah,
and
it's incredible.
I think it's great. Totally. Like you see free ride skiers and everything.
Yeah.
And it's more or less the exact same, but it's a little more raw terrain. Like with a bike, you have to manicure some things to make it rideable. You can't land in 2 feet of pow. You're going to explode.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest thing. It's like the second you land on a bike that people don't realize, it's often managing that exit. Like you're coming out faster, whereas big free ride skiing, like the second you push into 4 feet of snow, like yes, there is that compression, that bounce, but you're ditching speed like instantly, and that's just not happening on your bike. Like
no. Yeah, you're flying. You need to have like catch berms or little features to shed speed. And like these guys know what they're doing. You see like the Brandon Faircloths, you see the Readers, Seminax.
How about G's drop? That thing must have been terrifying to look at. Like
oh man, it was ridiculous. It was literally just dropping a rock off a cliff and G being the rock.
yeah, totally.
But yeah, like that was nuts because the landing was only half finished when he tested it out.
Yeah.
And he went like 5 or 6 feet deep. But the fact that he's so strong, like he almost stuck it too.
I know, it's crazy to watch it. And like it was really cool to hear you say, like, the general public has to realize like people are doing stuff. No one's trying to crash, because there was so much blowback I felt on G for that particular one. Like, yes, he's getting up there for a mountain biker in terms of age, yes, blah, 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 blah. But there's all these people that were like, he's just trying to be crazy. He's trying to stay credible. Like, he should never be doing this. And it was just like, man, this guy has been through some of the most horrendous stuff. He's worked his ass off. Like, he's not trying to crash. No one's trying to end up in a halo.
No.
I just thought those comments were so kind of asinine. So it's nice to hear you kind of, stay on top of that too. But
it's just the keyboard warriors. And in addition to like respecting their confidence, like age is only a number. Like these guys are among the fittest athletes on the planet. Like, age is completely irrelevant unless you're like 70.
Yeah.
like who knows? Maybe when G is 70, he'll be the oldest person to compete in Rampage. Like the guy's an absolute savage.
Yeah, he is. What's your biggest? What was your biggest fear at Rampage or in your career? What's the scariest stunt that you feel you've ever stepped up to, and then like how much confidence did it give you to finally stick it?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think one of the bigger drops I flipped at Rampage was fully cliffside. Is about 22 feet down, 15 out, and I built a little bit of a lip on top of it. And the only person that supported me in doing this was Zinc.
Really?
Everybody else was just like, "You're not flipping that," and Zinc was just like, You got this. And I was like,
Cool.
thank you, one person. But it was well within my wheelhouse, and the landing was probably 6 feet wide. And I've always done cork flips off drop, so I transfer a little bit to the left.
Yeah.
And so I literally had to aim about 4 feet right of the landing.
No way.
And in my head, fully checked out. My dig team was like, if you feel that it's correct, we stand behind you. And I was just like, okay. Maybe stand next to the cliff for me.
yeah, maybe stand not behind me, stand to the right in case I go that way. Yeah. But I think I might have lost you there. That's a good still screenshot if I did lose you. It'll be a good one to there you are, you're back now. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, like it's crazy. And that goes back to that confidence piece you were talking about, right? Because it's funny, like even going for rides with people and you get into those, should I hit this? Should I not hit this scenario? And which is so hard to answer when you're on rides with people. Like, dude, if you got it, you've got it. I don't want to be on a ride with someone. If you're like asking me, like, it's one thing if you're conversing, like, hey, do you think I had the speed? Like, yeah, no, cool. Like that happens. That's a part of it. But when you get these people like, hey, tell me how to do this. And you're like, and then on the flip side, it's like, if they've got it, the worst thing you can say is, well, I don't think you do have it. Like, at that point, if they're going to do it anyway, it's like all you can do is try to give some support and like be like, if you've got it, as long as you're committed and you're going to do it, then, just commit, do it right,
Exactly. So no half measures.
Which is so cool about the build teams, like being able to do that as well. And like, be like, yeah, if you're aiming right and you got it, you know what you're doing, like, hell, go for it, man.
Yeah, you bring builders that you really trust, people you ride with and know your riding style, so they can help you gauge that. But like you were saying, on any general ride, if someone steps up to something, like I try my best to stay out of their process, stay out of their head. And if someone really wants to do something, that is their personal choice. And unless I truly, truly, truly do not believe, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and support them.
Yeah,
but totally. People need to come to the realization and do the physics in their head and figure it out through their own works. So all you can really do is be a support factor unless you truly feel against it.
And that's even, I think, in another side, it's like, it's hard, right? As a professional rider or as a business owner and a shop owner or whatever, like you have to be somewhat selfish with your personal rides, which is different than like going out riding to lead a clinic or on a meet and greet. Like that's its own ride, right? And that's one thing. But it is tailoring that group of people you ride with. So hopefully you're not in those scenarios where you don't believe, that often, because you're with a crew of people that like everyone's kind of on the same page. Everyone knows each other's skill sets. You're kind of picking the same stuff. Because I think that's like often a lot of times people are like, that means you never want to go ride with a beginner. And it's like, no, not at all. I love riding with beginners. That's great. But like, that's its own ride. It's a different thing than when I'm trying to get out for a ride that I want to go and, ride with. And that group of people tends to be, it has to be a very like close group of people. And it has to be a group of people that are going to keep it together if shit does go sideways, right? Which is, like you were saying, is always a chance. So have you ever had a big like pull out of the woods in the shore? Have you ever had like a big one that was a tough exit after a crash or anything?
I've been pretty fortunate on the shore, to be honest. I've done some of the scariest things I've ever done on the shore, like the toonie drop. I flipped a couple step downs.
Yeah.
When we first built Brutus, when we were like 15 years old.
Yeah, you're with like Connor McLeod and Adriano and stuff for that one, right?
Yeah. Sandy Close, Scott Pilecki.
Oh yeah, Pilecki was Yeah,
I think Derek Dix was there and a couple others, and we don't even really know how. Well, we do know how we came up with the name. It's very inappropriate, and the name is Brutus. But going through all this, like learning these things and doing these milestone moves. If you're in the mindset and you have a good support crew around you and everything feels good, go for it. But if you're not there, if you're questioning yourself, come back another day. It's still going to be there. Conditions could improve. Your mindset could improve. You might even improve your riding abilities in that time. And you can't have the mindset of like, well, I'm here, I have to do it. Because that's just...
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. I was going to say a cocktail for disaster, but...
Yeah, I mean, Baker and I were actually just talking about that on the last episode about how few people now, especially getting into it, like seem comfortable with this idea of either walking sections of trail or walking away from stunts, like just being in, which used to be like, I felt like a staple of my rides, especially when I first got to. Like I was walking everything, and then
Yeah.
slowly you link it together, and it was like there was no shame in walking away from it. It was like
No.
it's a mark of pride to come back to this thing later and to like build the skill set and do that, which I think is something that's like in a little bit of a transition now as we move to potentially those flowier, more easy trails. People kind of have this expectation that they're going to step onto a blue or whatever it is and ride the whole thing first shot, which isn't a bad thing. Like it makes it accessible, but I think it also can sometimes like ruin a little bit of that confidence building that it takes from coming back to things, a few times and having to visualize them and grow from there.
And well, as that being said, like people often think they're riding like a blue, and say a blue in Idaho is different to a blue.
Totally. Yeah.
And people think that they should be able to ride it because Trail Fork says it's blue and it's in great shape.
Yeah.
And you need to trust your gut. And that's your best friend in these situations. Like go for a walk your bike, ride the trail, come back later. Because you're going to be overwhelmed your first ride through. You're
totally.
going to get some Kodak courage or whatever you have with your crew, and clear your head.
Yeah.
Take a minute.
Come back later.
You don't need to impress anybody. Unless
you're in Peru in the middle of nowhere and you're only there one time to go ride the highest thing, then I guess you don't really come back later, right? Like
without a medical team with you, you're out in the middle of nowhere and you need to realize that you might be 3 days from a hospital. And I was just talking to my wife about being in Nepal, and with this terrible helicopter crash that just happened in Terrace here. Like we had the conversation this morning that I've been in 2 air vessels that have gone down in days after I've flown those exact machines, those exact routes. And it rattles you in a way it's hard to explain. And it's something that I've always just kind of kept to myself or left on the trip because I don't want to worry my family. I don't want to worry my friends or my wife or anybody like that. But it's in the back of your head. And I had a buddy that was up in Terrace using this exact operation. He left a day before this incident happened. And I reached out to him this morning and just like, hey, if you ever need to chat or anything, like
man.
There's no real words, but it's almost a shared experience that you have.
Yeah, and it's not only that feeling of like fate and chance, even though this time you come out on the positive side of it, it rattles you in this way that's like, that does mean that there's a negative side that I'm very close to. And it really like shows that, but for, fate, great, whatever it is, like it's an interesting piece to be confronted with your own mortality in that kind of way. Which is a good like lead into, you're doing a lot of the adventure tourism, type stuff, bigger film projects, but you're also guiding a lot of rides in a lot of neat places. Is that something that like you're really kind of pushing towards and pursuing in your career, or like what is next, for you? Like what are you moving towards and what are you doing?
I love the adventure travel. Like I love doing big trips. Like Peru's a big stop I always do. Probably gonna do Ecuador this year. Gonna do Morocco as well.
Oh, cool.
Doing Oaxaca in April. And it's always been a passion of mine, like travel and bringing activities that you love to these destinations. Like people always think, let's just go for a vacation, but why not do what you love? Why not experience this country in a way that very few people get to? And getting just diving into these cultures, experiencing new food, new people, and just the way these people operate in their countries. Like it's so fascinating. And I love spreading these experiences and sharing them with people that may have never done them before, or people that are obsessed with it like myself.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the film projects that you've done where you get to see the interactions with some of the locals and whatnot, like are pretty special, and it seems like the response you get from people there is pretty incredible for the most part. And I mean, those are like, villages and places that most people are off beaten path enough so that when people are traveling to these countries, they're generally not going to. And it seems like it's just, it's definitely driven a desire in me to like, continue to do that. And to try to do that with my life. So is that like going to be kind of the main driver for you, is going to continue to like run those types of things and those types of trips? Is it to do film projects, or is it to try to get people to do those trips with you? Like what's the kind of recipe you're going for there?
I think it's a bit of a mix. I definitely want to continue guiding and then doing video pieces, photo pieces throughout these trips, because it is just so incredible. Being able to share it with the world it's a passion of mine. But in
Yeah.
addition to it, like I'm going to keep judging the Crankworks World Tour. I'm going to continue with the broadcast with Rampage and hopefully
Wicked.
move more into a little more broadcasting with other events as well. Because I've had so many experiences competing in slopestyle and big mountain events around the world that I feel I'm a good voice to break it down, explain it to the viewer,
Yeah,
and have
100%.
fun in the process. So
I do think
that's
the work you did at Rampage this year was like some of the best bridging I've ever heard between, yeah, like normal kind of viewer, someone who's in the know, without using a ton of like, lingo and jargon and stuff that like can't be understood, and kind of like being able to really open that to a broader audience was fantastic, which was great. So I
thank
think
you.
that's
I really appreciate that.
a really great role for you. We're almost out of time here. We got about 8 minutes left in this one. It always happens quick, but put you on the hot seat. Give me a hot take. Give me a controversial opinion that you have in mountain biking as a whole right now. Can be anything.
Why are the canning enduro?
Yeah, good point. Why are they canning enduro?
It's literally the heart and soul of mountain biking. Like they literally just rebranded mountain biking, made it this entire world race series, and then
Yeah,
slowly took it away from North America, and then now they're canning it completely. And I don't know if it's due to difficulties with televising it, difficulties with funding, or what. Like they have strange answers coming out left and
totally.
center, but it's the best aspect of actual mountain biking that appeals to the greatest audience.
Yeah, I agree.
And like downhill's amazing, cross country is amazing, but enduro or mountain biking is what
Yeah,
everybody does. You pedal up, you ride down, and all they've
yeah,
done is add a clock to the down sections,
yeah,
and it's like the best part of mountain biking for actual testing, crowd appeal,
yeah,
and more athletes can do it.
yeah, totally.
And I don't really get why they're
And I always
slowly
wish every
cutting
time I
out.
see an EWS race, I wish that it would be like so many of them are now riding with helmet cams. Helmet cams are good. We've got GoPros, we've got all these things. I don't get why we don't have like a live feed on everyone in the pro field. So there's like coverage going all day, but you can just click into like, I want to see, what he's doing. What's Melamed up to? Like, where are they? And you could just like, there would always be someone on track because there always is pro
Yeah,
women, pro men field. You'd always have something to watch. Like, yes, it would make your broadcast, 5 hours, but it's like, especially with the internet now, I don't see how it's not possible to have
yeah,
that, and dedicated viewers would be watching it. And it was definitely one of the best experiences of my life being over there with the We Are One team, and being able to like wrench for that season and meet everyone and see it and like watch it happen live was incredible. Like it
yeah.
was one of the coolest things I've ever been able to do.
Well, look at golf. It's 4 hours long for 4 days.
Yeah, yeah, and everyone
So
watches
people
it.
watch that
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
But yeah, for enduro, like it would be hard to tap into live cams on riders. I understand that, but even having a tracking device on the rider so you
totally.
could tune in and see where they are on the course,
Yep,
I think that'd be fascinating.
yep,
And they already have the technology. Like they have they scan in everywhere with their
yep.
cards or like tracers that are on their plates. And I don't think it'd be that hard to have like a live GPS map to where
Yep.
everybody is.
Yeah, because it is a scary
Yeah.
time right now. Obviously with budget cuts and whatnot, and teams, you're seeing them just disappear everywhere. I was just talking to a good friend of mine, Jesse Patel, who runs DVO distribution out of New Zealand, and his wife Ray Morrison is obviously one of the top female, EWS athletes, and talking with them about budget cuts and teams and just being this scary time. And yeah, it does seem really odd. But I am happy you brought up golf, because I also wanted to ask you about something that not a lot of people maybe know about you. You're a huge golf fan. You're loving
I
it.
I am. I got into it the beginning of the plague, and I just find it fascinating. Like it's all mental. It's
Yeah,
all mental. It's just you. You're competing against yourself, and the biggest thing I find people getting suckered into is like paying too close attention to what their playing partner's doing, like trying to keep up or anything.
yeah,
It's just like stay on your trail, play your game.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to try and play catch up and you're going to make errors. You need to stay chill. You need to find your distance, examine the terrain, select your tool, and execute. And I
Yeah.
find all those factors fascinating. And
It's such a
yeah,
counterpoint to the adrenaline fueled side of mountain bike, right? Because it's like you're trying to get to this place mountain biking where you're almost not thinking, right? Like that's when you know
right,
you're in the zone. It's just like happening. It's just going and your brain's making a million decisions every second. And then golf
yeah,
is like all you're doing is like trying to mimic the same stroke again and again, like remove all the other factors. Very similar stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Well, and then you get deeper into it, and then you're trying to create the same motion but a different stroke. Like you try to add backspin, you're trying to cut it, you're trying to draw it, and it's I find it so funny because it's not a game of power, it's a game of finesse.
Yeah.
And everybody tries to kill the ball off the tee, and a lot of my friends hit it further than me, but they're in the fairway 1 in 5 holes.
Yeah, totally.
And I get given crap by my boys. They're like, "Why aren't you crushing the ball?" I'm like, "You don't need to. You got 2 strokes to get to the green, man. Like your second shot might be shorter if you're in the fairway. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go through those trees."
Totally. Yeah, my driver stays in my bag a lot because it doesn't like to go down straight down. But I agree. I'll take less distance off the tee to at least put it somewhere that I can manage, the rest of the hole, which is awesome. So, well, I really look forward to playing Tobiano with you next summer. Yeah, it'll be good.
Oh my God. Oh, this spring. We'll be up there
this spring.
Yeah.
As soon as the snow's gone, we'll do that. I guess just to wrap up, man, I just wanted to say thank you again for joining and just sharing like some of your story, with everybody. I think it's pretty cool. And I really appreciated working with you on all sorts of things over the years. It's been awesome to get to know you and work with you and watch what you're doing. And you've been a great ambassador for this sport. You've been an inspiration to a ton of people and a lot of kids. And I'm just, thank you again for coming on. And I really look forward to seeing you soon, getting out for some rides this spring. Hopefully we can see you in Valemount for a little bit of ride, and hopefully we can get you up to Kamloops to do some stuff there too. And check out what we have to offer here for you. So.
Absolutely. Dude, thank you so much for everything. Like you've obviously made my bikes run better than they've ever run before. And I'm so bummed you're not here on the shore anymore, but I really cannot wait to come hang out with you in Kamloops because I truly miss just hanging with you. And
totally.
The work was just the cherry on top. So
we'll do it again soon. We'll figure it out. And man, have a wicked day and we'll chat in a bit, and much love, and see you in a bit.
Love you, brother.
Peace, buddy. Have a good one.
You too. Talk soon.
Balloons. Love it.
I don't know how that happened.
See you, bro.